Is there a relationship between Asian values and corruption? This question was asked by Mr. Hang Sung-ju, one of the distinguished ambassadors of Korea to Indonesia and later the foreign minister of Korea. And he went on to answer, on the face of it, Asian values which seem to emphasize personal relationships over public obligations, governmental paternalism over private initiatives, and moral exhortations over legal stipulations would tend to allow more room for corruption than Western values. Western values which emphasize legality, transparency, and individual initiatives. At the same time, however, Confucian teachings have regarded integrity and clean government as the most important virtues of officialdom. We also tend many times to rationalize the issue. Like inflation, we accept corruption also as an unavoidable appendage of development. This spreads cynicism and a lower resistance to giving or taking a bribe. So what is my conclusion? So what is my conclusion? Does culture play a very important part in corruption? Well, if you ask the question, is culture a determining factor in corruption? My answer would be yes, it is a contributory factor, but not a determining factor. There is cynicism and tolerance surrounding corruption, but not necessarily acceptance in our countries. Bribes are only grudgingly given. No one is happy with it. Given the option, all of us would do anything to live in a clean and honorable society. Now let me come to the economics of corruption. Is not corruption an economic activity more than anything else? Is it not related to the innate quest of man to continuously improve his or her lot, to generate gain? Of course, a law or sanction is the underlying pretext for a bribe. It is the economic byproduct of a legal requirement. You take away the law and the whole ground for corruption surrounding that disappears. Let me give you an example from my own country, India. There was a restriction in India on the import of gold. People had to face very tough time and a lot of harassment from customs officials to bring even small quantities of gold into India. Corruption was rampant. One fine day, the finance minister removed the restriction on the import of gold. And suddenly the corruption in that area also disappeared because there was no more any restriction. So there is always a legal basis for corruption. If you remove that legal ground, then corruption also goes with it. To counter corruption then, one has to look into economic factors also as much as legal factors. Let me again take an example of the police. To counter bribery by the traffic police, what must be done? Let us look at the situation now. If a person is caught by the traffic police, he can get away by paying an average bribe of 30,000 rupiah. More? 50,000 rupiah. How can this be tackled? How can you stop this? If we make a rule that for all traffic violations the fine would only be 10,000 rupiah, the legal fine, then would anybody pay the police? No. Then the incentive to pay the police is gone and one would only pay the legal fine amount. But what is the consequence of the reduction in the fine? People may try to violate the law more often as the punishment is very meager. Second, the policeman may not make efforts to enforce the law as he does not have any incentives. What if we increase the punishment for bribery? What if we say that for all cases in which a traffic policeman accepts bribes, if he is caught, the punishment is dismissal from service. This certainly increases the risk for the policeman. This will deter a large number of them from bribery. This may also in some cases increase the amount of bribe as the risks are high. The consequence here again is that there might be less enforcement as there is no incentive and the risks are very high. What if we build an incentive system for the police and say that they would get 10% personal incentive for all traffic violations booked? Enforcement then may become too harsh with all cops in the streets out to make money. What if we punish the bribe payer, the giver of the bribe, and says anyone who pays a traffic cop will lose his vehicle, the vehicle will be confiscated. Giving of the bribe then decreases, of course, but then the incentive to the policeman to be on the street also declines as he knows that nobody is going to pay a bribe. What if we increase the salary of the traffic cop and also increase the punishment for getting caught? Adam Smith says a difference in salaries imposes a cost of dismissal. This cost can more than offset the gain from personal malfeasance. Somehow, society acquires a balance, an equilibrium, as the advocates of the game theory say. Nash, who is the father of the game theory, introduced the fundamental concept of the equilibrium point, a collection of strategies by various players such that no one player can improve his outcome by changing only his own strategy. To counter corruption then, this must be broken with a set of rewards and punishment, and a new equilibrium needs to be found. In order to achieve a new equilibrium then, the state also has to spend money, has to make an effort. It has to invest in wages. State will have to become harsher with punishments. Is the state ready for this? Or is it happy with the current equilibrium, wherein corruption in the streets exists, wherein people are not harassed too much, and the police can also make a little pocket money?